Good evening, guys. It's Saturday, December 3rd. My name is Dave Coker, and this is Talking About Finance. All right, guys and gals, it's Coker 1, COVID 0. Although I'm still a little tired, a little rough and ragged, but here we are together again in search of one thing, wealth. But how can we best do this? Well, we agreed a long time ago the single best way to gain wealth was to buy and hold. And it doesn't matter what asset, as long as we valued it correctly, as long as cash flow isn't threatened, we buy that asset, we hold that asset, we never sell that asset. Why would we? We're getting paid to hold that asset. We're getting paid here and now. We're getting paid in the present. And we willingly pay taxes on this income because it's ours now. Compared to the buy and hold crowd who hope to make their money from capital gains sometime in the future. Compared to the buy and hold crowd, they have no idea what sometime is. When is the future? Is it next week, next month, next year? Will they be making any money? Maybe, maybe not. Is that any way to live? Because allegedly the taxes are lower, and I say allegedly. Not always the case. We don't think so. We get paid every day. And there's no looking back, no time to waste on our journey to profits, our journey to wealth. So let's get started. The night is young. My wife and I have just been out Saturday evening, a little bit cold. I'm tired of hearing all this media bullshit about a cost of living crisis. We went to a pub. It was totally mobbed once again. Totally tired of hearing about people who have to decide between heating and eating. It's bullshit. The UK government's helping those who need help, and from what I can see, the kids are all right. So on this Saturday evening, the one thing we need is more pints. The night is young, and we're trying to keep that hospitality industry alive. So 7 slides for 7 days, what me and my buddies, about 50 or so investment bankers, ex-investment bankers, all around money freaks as we call ourselves, are talking about all week long on a private Telegram channel. I bring what I hope is the best for you, and by that I mean it's the stuff I like best. So hopefully you'll like it as well. All right, guys, let's go. So this is an interesting one because, on Twitter you see all sorts of knuckleheads, and allegedly this gentleman, hedge fund manager, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't believe it. He's overthinking something. You need a place to live. Would you really rather pay rent? And keep in mind this myth, and it is a myth, because I have a really large property business, and I can tell you every flat that I own and I let out is rented for cost plus. In other words, I don't do anybody any favors and rent them below what it cost me to run the place. I don't know where that myth got started. It's total bullshit. So yeah, here guys, you need a place to live. I don't have a mortgage. I can't communicate to you the peace of mind, the wave of relief that came over me when I finally killed that mortgage way back in 2000. I hated having a mortgage. I did it only for tactical reasons, didn't like it. And when I killed it, I felt really good. All I need to do is cover my costs, my living costs. No plus for a mortgage. No, it's garbage. So please don't fall prey for this. It's totally ridiculous. And this is interesting because we're seeing a lot of people speculate now, and by that I mean they're putting money behind it, that we're not going to see West Texas Intermediate, WTI, and by implication Brent crude either, surge up to where it was, unless there's another supply intervention. Could it happen again? Yes, it could. Although we know the governments and industry have been scrambling to try to prevent it. So we'll have to see. But keep in mind, these are very large systems, and these changes take time. So I run the numbers about what's going on in the S&P 500 energy sector. I've taken 6 stocks from the energy sector with the biggest earnings per share forecast, the biggest increase. And you can see we're starting from Chevron going down to Marathon. Here I've got the ticker, the price to earnings on a trailing 12-month basis, the earnings per share, trailing 12-month, both of those TTM. Look backwards, guys. Then we got the earnings per share forecast. Now, once again, simple math. Take the EPS forecast times the PE. You should be able to back into the share price. Roughly when I did this chart, it made sense for Exxon because I own a lot of Exxon. So I ran the numbers. And yeah, you can sort of see who's got potentially the biggest upside. Will it last for all of 2023? I don't know. I don't care. I own ExxonMobil just for the dividend. The fact that it's more than doubled since I bought it, yeah, sweet. I like it. I'm not selling anything yet. I'm not planning on selling anything in the near term in 2023. So we'll have to see. Another thing I'm tired of hearing, and again, I did an analysis. A lot of people, especially on social media, are sagely predicting, now that we've had inflation, we're going to have deflation. I look at data, and the data says no. Here's 6 periods of peak inflation, CPI, going back to 74 when it was 12.2, all the way up to 2022. I've taken a look at CPI 6 months later and CPI 12 months later. And guys, check this out. We can see that there's only one period when CPI was negative a year after peak inflation. And that was in 2008. And actually CPI did run negative for about 18 months. Oh, and I have to apologize. There's actually a typo in my CPI 6 months for 2022. It's actually 5 months. And I did have, in my presentation in the paper I wrote, I had that highlighted. I'm not sure what happened when I brought it into to PowerPoint like that. But I blame Microsoft. I have no idea what happened. But there's no intent to deceive on my part. That's actually a 5-month number, 7.8%. And just in case you need to know this information for your significant others, boys, girls, I give you the top prizes. Don't let your kids see this. I'll make another list where I got the cheapest prizes. And they'll be ranked from 1 to 5, but we won't put that they're ranked by cost. But yeah, you want to avoid that Lego. And I have no idea about Barbie, but yeah, looks like it's expensive too. And here's another interesting one, guys. And we do have to start to debunk this myth. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. Remember how COVID last week couldn't broadcast? We talked about it 2 weeks ago. Bitcoin is not crypto, and crypto is not Bitcoin. We do have to totally debunk that. Bitcoin is in a class of its own. And that's why we put our money into Bitcoin. That's why every week we buy Bitcoin. We don't buy Dogecoin or Shiba Inu or these other. I'm not going to use that rude phrase. And they work for certain people. They don't work for me. Why? There's no distinct USP. Why in God's name should I own Dogecoin? Runs on the same blockchain as Bitcoin. Why should I own it? Same thing with these other altcoins. So I'm not going to be rude about it. I'm just not buying it. I buy Bitcoin. And I think, roughly 18 months ago, I started buying Ripple every week. Again, clear USP. Of the 20,000 other altcoins that are out there, we know 99%, and this is not my number that I pulled out of the air, this is on somebody's research, 99% are scams, or they're not going to be around in 2 years. So you really got to choose where you're going to be putting your money. And here's an interesting one. And once again, go on Medium. I wrote a paper about this. It's based upon some stuff I did for some banking clients. Yeah, this is good news and bad news. It's good news because the number of addresses, the number of on-chain addresses holding more than one Bitcoin has reached a new record. It's over 1 million. And that's sort of cool. It's sort of bad news because these addresses, I'm really hoping they're not controlled by retail investors. Because when you hold more than one Bitcoin in an address, people go through the blockchain all the time. And they do all sorts of analyses on these addresses. And you're not sure, unless you do your own InfoSec audit like I do, you're not sure how much information you leak. It's amazing how much people who smugly assure me I won't find much about them on the internet. Oh yeah, please give me that challenge. At the university I used to work at, somebody did it, and I was like, okay. And then I found out his real name wasn't what it was listed. It was actually an ethnic name. Once I had that, and I got clues because people leak information all the time, basically I own him. And guys, same thing happens when you challenge people. If you've got, say, 2, 3, 4, 5, God forbid, 10, 20 Bitcoin on a single address, you're going to become somebody's hobby, and they're going to find out all they can about that address and you. You really need to avoid that type of hassle. Best practices Don't reuse receiving addresses. We've talked about that before. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Hope you're having a wonderful evening, a great weekend. We'll talk again later, next week. Have a safe and profitable week. I bought stocks last week. Be buying in Bitcoin and Ripple. I'll be buying Bitcoin and Ripple for the next few weeks until we get to January when the December dividends will be paid. I'll buy stocks again. Keep the faith, guys.